Auto insurance. We're going to talk auto insurance. Does it get any more exciting than that? Don't shut off the video. I'm telling you right now, this is the most overlooked aspect of financial planning. And I know it's easy to say that you can save 15% or more by switching to Geico, USA, Progressive, what's the other one? Liberty, Farmers, all that stuff. All right, I get all that. It's critically important to understand, though, what you need to know about life insurance and how to protect yourself. That's what we're going to talk about, because I'm telling you, man, it's nuts how many people don't. I had a good call with a guy today, a client, and we're going over his insurance. And usually I just take a cursory look if they put it in. If not, sometimes we overlook it because but most people put it in. And this guy was spot on with running his financial numbers, which is good. And most people are. But usually just take a cursory look, kind of go over the ins and outs of it and tell him he needs to talk to his agent. Today I was like, yeah, that's interesting. It was a little bit lacking in my opinion, and he still had an umbrella policy. And I was like, I don't know so much about that. So we're going to talk about how these goes hand in hand. And when I got off the call, my man Rob, who's a subscriber and a subscribe star supporter of mine, just an all-around great guy, even though he's an attorney, he said, Josh, I can't tell you how much I've learned from the auto insurance video that Skip Ritchie and I did. And I'll put that link in the show notes because it's critical to understand. So let me give you a little bit of background from where we're coming. All right, so with auto insurance and homeowners insurance, it's called property and casualty. P&C, property and casualty. All right, so you got P&C, property and casualty. Then you got life insurance. All right, so life insurance is things for annuities and life insurance. Annuities, SPIAs, income annuities, any kind of annuity, life insurance, property and casualty. And I'm trying to think, is there long-term care? Is there a specific one for long-term care? I don't remember. But generally speaking, if you're licensed in this, that's great. You're probably licensed in that. That's great too. But it's tough to be good at both of ththese guys. It really is. Never mind to be good at both these guys plus investments, the whole thing. I mean, it's tough to do. So look, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just tough. Which is why you want to have someone who knows their property and casualty like the back of their hand, and someone who knows life insurance like the back of their hand, someone who knows Medicare like the back. That's the other one I was going to say, Medicare stuff. Generally speaking, all these three things aren't going to flow under the same umbrella. Now they could. I don't know though. I mean, I think like Danielle Roberts, J.O., USA for here. Life insurance is probably me, to be honest with you. Investments is probably me. It's easier to be knowledgeable here. But the life insurance stuff is becoming so, there's so many different products out there that I think you need a real live life insurance agent for sure, because the products change all the time. My man Rich Shaga, he's my life insurance guy. The products change all the time, and you should never be so cocky to say I'll never talk to a life insurance agent because you don't know what's out there. Stuff changes all the time. But when it comes to property and casualty, this is USAA. That's what they do for me. All right, so now we have a couple things. We have I don't think you need an investment guy. I just think you go to Vanguard. I do think you need a life insurance agent who knows what the heck he's talking about. I forgot the name of that. Policy Genius. I shared the story before. They were thinking about sponsoring the podcast, and I threw them a pretty big quote, and they were saying they were kind of throwing me a second beat. They were interested in sponsoring the podcast or the channel, whatever. And I threw them a pretty big quote. I said, look, if I'm going to get sponsorship, I'm going to get paid for sure, because I'm not all that inclined to give away sponsorships unless I'm going to get paid. And so I just threw it out there to see what they do. I will see. Anyway, while they were kind of, they threw it back to my corner, I had emailed I did the chat live for the life insurance, and I talked to a guy, but I asked about a second to die life policy, and the guy, their agent, said, oh no, don't get a second to die, get two separate policies. And I said, no, I need a second, and in my thing I said, I need a second to die for estate planning. And the minute he said, no, don't do that, we don't do it, but just get two separate life insurance policies, he didn't know what he was talking about. And so immediately I said, nope, Policy Genius, scratch it, because you don't know what you're talking about. Not when it comes to any. And look, second to die life insurance isn't overly complex. It's just not. So not knowing that if you're a life insurance agent, that's bad. So we're going to talk about this right here, property and casualty. So don't conflate them. State Farm, USAA. I think State Farm can do some basic life insurance. That's fine. I mean, just the basic term stuff, nothing wrong there. Basic whole life. I mean, all that stuff is relatively easy. But when it comes to property and casualty, you don't want your life insurance guy doing property and casualty. You'd much rather have your property and casualty guy doing life insurance than your life insurance guy doing P&C, if he's even licensed, or she. All right, so let's go into it. We got, let's make sure that's nice and, yeah, it looks like dry. My little man Pablo sitting there. Hey, big guy. We all love you, Pablo. He's such a cute little puppy. Woo. You think I'm high energy. You should see that cat. Actually, that dog. All right, so we got liability. Oh, look at that. We got personal injury. PP, and we got personal injury, PA. All right, so the guys talked today had a, man, my eyes are dry, had a $50,000 limited liability. He had 50,000 personal injury per person and 100,000 per accident. And then he had a $500,000 umbrella. And he had some insurance company I'm not familiar with. So I said, that seems odd to me. Man, these orange cream things from Walmart, whoo, these are good. All right, Walmart. You hear about Walmart saying, we're going to ban all kinds, we think we should ban all kinds of semi-automatic rifles? It's like, what are you doing, Walmart? Do you not know who your customers are? This is insane. All right, so here's my concern. With liability, what happens when he's driving down the street and he is at fault for a car wreck, all right? And now he crashes into a Tesla, which also crashes into a Mercedes. What is his coverage? Well, he's only covered for $50,000. That's it. So if he causes the wreck to the Tesla, which causes to the wreck to the Mercedes, which causes the wreck to whatever, what's the likelihood that it's going to be more than $50,000 in damage? Well, probably pretty high. Who's responsible for it? Well, the insurance company will be responsible to $50,000, but who's responsible above that? I don't know. We're going to talk about this umbrella here in just a second, because this is my, I was like, we'll get into that. All right. Now, if the guy from Tesla was injured in that, and it cost $40,000 in medical, who's responsible? Well, the insurance company is going to be responsible. What if the guy from Tesla was injured plus the guy in the Mercedes was injured, and they're both $40,000? Who's responsible? Well, he only got $50,000 of personal per person. And just think about it too. When I got my rotator cuff surgery, the bill said $39,000. How much actually did the insurance company pay the hospital? Like $9,000. So they wrote off $30,000. We know, look, it's all fake. We know this. But that's what they did. They wrote off $30,000 for whatever reason. But now, if that same bill is sent to an insurance company, do you think they're going to write off $30,000, or are they going to get the full $39,000 from the at-fault insurance company? Well, of course they're going to go for the full $39,000. I mean, this is how it works. They bump up the prices so they can say, hey, if in a car crash we're going to charge $39,000, they're going to make a profit of injury. This is what happens. No other way around that. Who pays it? Your insurance company. But if it's more than $50,000 per person, who pays it? All right. So we got $50,000 per person. Now in that case, yeah, the guy from Tesla is $40,000. The guy from Mercedes is $40,000. Would it be $80,000 total? Yeah. But what if there's a third guy? It's $120,000 total. So we got 40, 40, 40. All right. So we only $40,000. I mean, $50,000 per person, but it's only $100,000 per accident. So here you got $120,000. So in that case, you're on the hook for $20,000. So if we got $80,000 of damage, $120,000 of cover of personal injury, and it's only $50,000 per person, and you only have $100,000 per accident. Well, you're on the hook for $20,000, and you're on the hook for $30,000. That makes sense? Does your coverage? What's the likelihood that that could happen? Quite high. Getting to an auto accident is a lot higher than likelihood than anything else. So we have a pretty good gauge that say there's a pretty good risk here. Now, in this case, the guy had an umbrella policy for $500,000, which cost him $77 a year. Now, My concern was at USAA, we would not give you an umbrella policy until you had maxed out these three things. And for USAA, this is what it used to be. I don't know what it is now, but it used to be 100, 300, and 500. All right, so it's 100, 300, and 500. And we'd give you an umbrella policy. Once you hit these numbers, we'd give you an umbrella policy. Is to see this $500,000 umbrella on these low of coverages. That's a low cover. That's way too low. Way too low. Because at USA, A, we wouldn't grant you unless you hit the numbers. And B, I don't know if these guys in this umbrella, are they going to say, we will step in and give you coverage on these amounts that your auto insurance doesn't cover? I don't think so. Look, I don't know, but think about it. It's only $77 a year for a $500,000 policy, and they're going to kick in at any amount above 50-51 or 50-100. I don't think so. That seems awful low to me. I bet there's a gap there that says, you are essentially, it's almost like a deductible. We'll cover you for the first 50-51. After that, we won't cover you again until something, and then after that, we'll cover you with a $500,000 umbrella. I don't see how that could possibly fly. It would seem odd to me, and it wasn't odd. I'd never heard of this insurance company before. But what we want to make sure, we have our liability more than $50,000. Again, at USA, the default was 100, 300, 500. Now, I get it. They are an insurance company. They want you to have bigger coverage because they get paid more. I get all that, man. I get it. But when you think about it, the value of vehicles nowadays, they're getting more and more expensive. The medical costs would get more and more expensive. And again, just my rotator cuff surgery alone was $39,000 according to the invoice. All right, that's just a rotator cuff, man. That's not broken legs, freaking, concussion or whatever, spinal surgery and all that. That's just rotator cuff. So if I'm sitting on 50-51, that's 50,000, 50,000, 100,000. That leaves a lot of liability. Now, having the umbrella is good. I don't know how that works. And I say, you need to talk to your insurance agent. And I asked him, I said, when's the last time you talked to him? He goes, I talk to him every year. I said, how's that conversation go? He goes, it just says you're still covered. It's okay. So I told him, I said, you need to talk to this guy. And I said, this is what you say to your insurance guy. If I am at fault and I total a Mercedes and a Tesla, how much am I covered above, or how much am I covered? And let's say the damages in this case are $80,000. How much am I covered? I can tell you, they're going to say $50,000. I said, okay, will the umbrella kick in above that $50,000? If yes, then you're golden. But I just don't think it's going to be, my friends. I don't think that umbrella is going to kick in that soon because it's only $77 a year. Maybe, I think it's a year, every 6 months, something like that. That's nothing. I just don't think any insurance company is going to kick in that kind of risk management for $77 a year if you only have 50, 50, and 1 for coverage. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I'm telling you, man, there's a reason why auto insurance is so expensive because all the accidents that happen. So if that was the case, why would anyone have more coverage on this side if they can get by with a tiny premiums and a lot of coverage there? It just doesn't make sense. Now, I don't know if that umbrella is only for his home. I don't know how it works for this guy. An umbrella, again, is an umbrella above what you currently have for covered for your homeowners and your auto insurance, your property and casualty. So again, let me rephrase this. So I want you guys to look at your policy, talk to your agent and say, if I hit a guy and I'm at fault who's driving a Tesla and it totaled it, and then that Tesla also was at fault, and I'm also at fault for a Mercedes, which was totaled, and the total damage cost, $100,000 or $50,000, whatever it is, am I covered? That's what you got to ask. That's your property damage liability limits. What are my limits? And they'll say you're limited to $100,000. So again, if I rear end a Tesla who rear ends a Mercedes and both get totaled and it comes out to $80,000, I'm covered. Yes, that's right. Okay. What if the guy in the Tesla and the guy in the Mercedes, one's a freaking surgeon and one's a professional baseball player? What if they now have both life-sustaining injuries where they can't go back to the work? How much am I covered for there? So is it $250 or $300? I should say $300 per person is $500,000 per accident. You just got to ask these questions. You got to ask these questions. So remember, if you're don't take this wrong, but if you hit rear end me and I'm just some YouTube guy, my liability, your liability to me is to replace my income is a whole lot lower than if you're doing a freaking spinal doctor or surgeon. You see what I'm saying? Because that guy or lady is being charged, is commanding a lot of income. If he can no longer work because of your actions, you're going to pay. There's no other way around that. It's not you, it's going to be an insurance company. But if you don't have the coverage, then he's going to come after you. No other way around it. So we want to make sure our liability, property damage, it's really property damage is really what's called. Again, this used to be a USA $100,000. Property damage liability. We want to do per person bodily injury. 300,000. So remember, per person. Then we want to do per accident bodily injury. $500,000. All right, so we got $100,000 for liability on causing damage, property damage liability, $300,000 per person bodily injury. So obviously you got $300,000 for Joe. Well, the max you can have is $200,000 for Jane, because you only have $500,000 per accident. Does that make sense? Per person per accident. So 1, 3, and 5. That's what we used to say. Then we say get $1 million umbrella on top of that. So that would be on top of all this right here. So that way, if Joe and Jane were medical doctors, husband and wife, and they could no longer do their job because you freaking rear-ended them because you're texting, you'd have another $1 million of coverage. So you'd have your $500,000 here and $1 million. Now, I am not an expert on this. I'm telling you. But when I first came to USA, we learned that a lot. Then as they got more and more into wealth management and less in terms of managing money and less into financial planning. And this is what happened. It actually kind of sucked because when I first got there the first year, we used to have these conversations all the time. If you didn't have them, you get dinged because you're supposed to, because this is critical importance for financial planning and the fact that USAA was an auto insurance company. But then they went away from that, wanting to be more hoity-toity wealth management, so we hardly ever talked about it anymore, which wasn't good, man, because a lot of people expected USAA as their insurer to be aware of what was going on, and yet we weren't. Maybe somebody we didn't talk about it because we're too busy trying to raise assets to get paid on the money we're raising. It's too bad, but you got to understand how auto property and casualty works. It's critically important because everyone has auto insurance, and if you don't have it right, you could be in a world of hurt. All right, well, don't forget to subscribe and comment the whole thing. We'll see you next time.